Spiritual Fitness podcast. We back again with another episode, and I have the privilege to have Garry Lineham from Human Garage, the CEO and founder of Fascia Maneuvers, and he's here today to discuss trauma, pain, challenges, fears, setbacks, growth, authenticity, spirituality, and astrology, all in between. Garry, welcome to Spiritual Fitness podcast. How are you today?
Doing really great.
Yeah.
Listen, Eric, I'm super excited. I mean, you got to see one of our events. So you get to see the power of connection, and our bodies are tuning forks. So why don't we sync up our bodies together for this podcast?
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's do a sync up. You can either cross your right leg over or cross your ankles, your feet, either one. Take your right hand, put it underneath your left armpit, left hand on top, and turn your head to the left and your body to the right. What we're going to do is take 6 breaths together, 3 through the mouth and 3 through the nose. So breathe in through the mouth. 2. 3. Through the nose. 2. 3. How do you feel?
I feel incredible. Yeah, so by the way, people who don't know, he had a tour, an event in Anaheim about 3 weeks ago. It was pretty phenomenal because I was able to witness what everyone sees on Instagram of your YouTube of Human Garage and what you guys do with the fascia maneuver. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what it actually is? The word, I think it's fascia, right? And maneuver. I like to call this the shadow frequency of the body, which is energy that you're maneuvering through the vessel. What is your interpretation and definition of it?
Fascia is a construct. It's tissue. It's the interwoven tissue, but it doesn't extend only in the body. I believe fascia is the energy. It's our human existence. But fascial is a word that we made up. Okay. And we made that word up in 2014 and trademarked it because you can't trademark or reference like fascia because it's something that everybody has. It's a medical term, but fascial. So fascial and maneuver. Maneuver is a movement that's tactical, that's precise, that has intent, intent in doing it and with intent with outcome. Because there's a lot of movement programs out there, and movements are great, but maneuvers are very intentful. They target different processes and states of awareness in the body simultaneously. Like the one that we just did was a sync up. You know, and normally it would take 20 to 30 minutes for us to sync up. We could do that in 6 breaths as long as our body's in this exact same position.
Yeah.
And we have the breaths in sync. It takes what would normally take 20 to 30 minutes and it brings it down into 6 breaths. So that's a tactical, very decisive, very precise movement with an intent behind it. And then when you cross yourself, when you cross your leg over and your arms countercrossed and you turn, that's to the body, that's a memory of a fetal position. So it actually, in tactics, it's actually taking your cellular memory back to a time where you were created, where everything was perfect before things were messed up. So that's part of the reason why we believe. And, you know, like, I'm going to tell you stories about why I think this works. When I say we believe or I believe this works, because truthfully, nobody really knows. And even more truthfully, we're learning every single day more about this. The whole process of fascial maneuvers and what it does to heal or perform in the body. I'm still in the experiment. I've transformed my life and my body after 35 years of pain and suffering. And it was suffering. I know it's suffering self-imposed. But after 35 years of pain and suffering, literally because I had imposed it upon myself, these maneuvers, after 3 months, were the first time in my life I was functionally out of pain, or at least emotionally could deal with it.
You know, you say 35 years, that's a pretty good time, right? To kind of go through pain and suffering. And some people suffer a lifetime in pain, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What was the anchor or the catalyst to have a turning point in your life to say, you know what, something must change? What was that? And what was the pain? And what triggered you to say, I'm going to take initiative and figure this out?
There's a lot of things that led up to it. I don't I think there's a turning point, but that turning point was more a realization of who I was, as like why I came to this planet,
Got it.
this earth.
Okay.
So because the turning point, like I was very successful in business. I have many businesses and partnerships and public companies and private companies. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. And I was also an athlete when I was younger. I know you were an athlete.
Yes.
I was a bodybuilder. And I hurt myself under 600-pound squat back in probably I'm going to say 80, I think it was 87 or 88. Can't remember exactly, but it was in the late 80s. And then I started having back issues that I kept having to treat. And then I had some concussions and car accidents and just piled up. So I had this low level pain that if I worked out, I was okay. But if I stopped working out, I would start to feel the pain. So I'm on this hamster wheel. If I worked out 3 days a week, I'm good. But if
Yeah.
I don't work out 3 days a week, I'm not good. And then my life through having kids and businesses and moving around, sometimes I couldn't. So my pain started to grow over time. And it started off as what I perceived to be physical pain. But, as the pain had been there for years, the pain became both mental and then emotional at the same time. And I spent the last 10 years before I became a practitioner in a 6 to 9 pain every day, which just became normal. So turning point, which is part of what Rolling Stones has wrote about me today.
Yeah. What's the article? We talked about that off air. Can you give us you brief?
It wasn't really an article. It was a beat up on RFK
Yeah.
and Russell Brand and all that. And I got tagged in it because I was in proximity of the gunshot. So I got sprayed up. And I don't take political sides. I'm there. I mean, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, whether you're a Christian or a heathen, doesn't matter what you are, you go to a hospital and you go to a grocery store. And those are pretty neutral. And we're all about nourishing the body and healing and performing in the body. So we're the hospital and the grocery store. So, we show up everywhere. But sometimes through proximity, people want to, point a gun at you and get you there, or a little bit of shrapnel from a grenade going off. Well, the turning point for me was in 2008. I used to encrypt data for BlackBerries, and I did this in such a way that the governments couldn't decrypt them. And I did a lot of work. I had a lot of government people and high level secrecy positions all over the world in pharmacy companies and lawyers and anybody and everybody who wanted privacy, which is anybody from a drug dealer to a government official. And when I wouldn't work with them and give them my encryption codes or a backdoor, after a couple of years of trying to get that to open, they arrested me and they held me for 27 months. Right down where I had the event, actually, in Santa Ana. And 17 of those months was solitary confinement.
Wow.
And so from a spiritual perspective, I've never been a guy who really prayed. I tested it throughout the years. Didn't always work out. So I'm like, I'd been in maybe 4 months in solitary confinement. Man, the most level of pain I'd ever been in my life. And I prayed and I said, God, if you help me out of this, I'll spend the rest of my life helping people. Never be in this pain. It wasn't about my circumstances, but my pain. And an hour later, in my solitary confinement, super max, 31, 1 hour out of every 30 hours, my door opened, which usually means I'm going to get into trouble somehow. I'm going to get roughed up or something. And so I'm bracing for whatever's coming through that door. And they took a neurologist who was a chiropractor, and he was in for some sort of insurance fraud, dysregulation or whatever. And he was going to get killed in general population. So they stuck him in with me. And for 14 months, I had a medical education like you can't believe, because we were 24 hours a day locked in a 8x10 room. That was what I prayed for. That was what I got. And, here I am, now 16, 17 years later, living out my end of the agreement.
That's amazing. And it's interesting you say God, because I have a question about that. What is Garry's definition of God?
I've been around. I grew up in a Southern Baptist home. I tried out Christianity a couple of times, went to Kabbalah, tried that out for 7 years, studied Sanskrit. I played around with some other fringe faiths and religions just to try and understand. And the best way that I would say is that there's a creator.
Yeah.
Like there's an intelligent design. And within that intelligent design, we are part of it. So we're not separate from it. So, so that means that if there is a God and there is an intelligent design, then, and I'm part of that intelligence, I'm not separate from it. So God is my connection to the intelligence design.
Oh, I like it.
And and we have this field around us which is intelligent, and um, and we become very disconnected from it. You know, one of the ways we feel is when we're present or grounded. We can notice, we can observe the beauty and greatness around the world. But if I'm in fear, I'm not connected to my presence or to my oneness.
Yeah.
But also, conversely, if I'm in love,
Oh,
well, think about it this way: if you're in fear,
yeah.
the partner that you have coming to you, you fear that they're going to hurt you.
Ah, that's
If
good.
you're in love, the partner that you're going to be blinded to see that they are hurting or will hurt you. So between fear and love is the state of presence in which we are in observance.
So
And
good.
and and if you think about it, if I thought about this is my personal way of looking at it. So in that state of presence, I seem to have access to a greater realm of information, which drives me and has been driving this process. And that's what I call God.
And that's beautiful, the design intelligence, because I've heard the creator, the universe, infinite intelligence, the all, the be all, but the design of intelligence between fear and love, that's this presence that you can connect to this data of intelligence to create or to tap into your soul consciousness or your soul purpose. What is your definition? I want to get back to the guy you was locked up with in, solitary confinement. What is your definition or what is the purpose of life? Because I feel like you experience so much of life in your short time here that you kind of have a greater understanding more than the average, human being or person. What is the purpose of life from your realm?
I honestly believe that most people are, going through life trying to figure out what their purpose is.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I'm open, I'm not discounting the fact that there may be more purpose that I'm not aware of yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like I connected with my purpose.
Yeah.
And how do I know that I'm connected to my purpose? Is that I no longer want for anything.
Mm.
And that's a really strong feeling. So there's at some point we're some energy.
Yeah.
At some point we come into this reality, real TV reality.
Yeah.
We come into this reality and we're executing some sort of driven, like we were talking about astrology earlier.
Yeah.
And I can tell by astrology when people had traumas, when they had, you can look at that. There's ways to know like what happened at this year. So there has to be some intelligent design to this. So in other words, I had a plan when I came here.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions that I always get is, but does that mean there's no free will? And I said, free will was the decision I had to come here to have this experience. So the purpose of life, and from my point of view, is to have the experience. And that experience isn't always what we think it is. It's not about working. It's not about achievement. It's not. That experience is embedded in those things are the emotions that we feel and that we experience. And those emotions are what drive every aspect of who we are. Mm-hmm. So the experience itself is the free will. At some place we have free will, and when we connect to that free will, then we move quickly and easily through our lives. Mm-hmm. When we don't connect to the free will, or when we're not connected to that free will, we have all these roadblocks or obstacles or pains, and at first it feels like we're not connected to it on purpose. So that we have these obstacles and pains, so we kind of get an idea of how to navigate this realm or this existence that we have.
Yeah, it's a very strong point because I believe everything in life that goes against who we are, what we want to be, is to transform our soul. All negativity, all plights, all challenges. There's a book, it's a Kabbalah book about astrology, and they were saying like astrology is usually like the DNA of the soul, right?
I have to show you this.
Yeah, please show me.
Okay, I have to show you this, and because I do see the astrology as the blueprint for
Yeah.
our human existence. Here's my twin.
Wow. Huh?
So the same coloration on the neck, same ears, same eyes,
Yeah.
same teeth line, same hair.
Wow. Born the same
Okay,
time as well?
the thing is that's my twin, but they're just to prove it. I mean, these things that are genetically supposed to be that way. Here's our feet.
Wow.
See the baby toes. Here's the basis of our twindom.
Mm.
We're not from the same parents, but our astrological charts are identical.
Wow. I love astrology.
Okay, but here's the crazy part. We're both 29 degrees Sag.
Yeah.
And there's only 3 markers on our whole chart that are different. One by 2 degrees, and then the rising and the midheaven, which is our ego and who we are. So but here's the crazy part. I've got like 40, maybe 2 or 43 of them now that I found in the world.
Wow. Yeah, that's so incredible. I'm curious now, right? What you're saying, maybe there is another twin like this out there for me, maybe several.
There is.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I'm showing people, and I'm actually found other people's twins as well.
Yeah.
So I believe that this intelligent design, the astrology defines the framework. It's like an astrological blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
And then our DNA responds to that blueprint. It acts and emotes a certain way, because the babies, when they come out, they're pretty much all the same. It's a ball of goo.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but the shaping of that ball of goo based upon how we emote or how we move through this world. Like if I do exercise all the time, I'm going to look one way. It changes my jaw and the shape.
Yeah.
If I sit there and intellectualize and sit on a couch all day, I'm going to be very frail and very different.
Yeah.
So the way that I want to move through this life emotionally, the way I think, the way I perceive, and how I act in this world eventually changes the way that my DNA works. And I see that emotion is the connection language between our astrological blueprint and the DNA. And the emotions are what inform our RNA and how to act. That's the way I see it. And I'm building up evidence for that here. I mean, I have a lot of people, I have over 40 people that look like in one way, shape, or form, either identical or fraternal twins.
Yeah, and like you said, it makes sense because I've done so much extensive research on myself. My midheaven being in Leo, North Node is in Pisces, 5th house, 11th house is in Virgo, South Node, right? I'm like, oh, this is why I'm this way. And then as you evolve, you change and you grow. And I feel like my life has been a movie. And there's a quote by J.P. Morgan that says, millionaires don't study astrology, billionaires do. And when I think about billionaires, I think about the frequency. So from your position, why do you think the people who have more power, more access, or maybe more resources, not even financially, just energetically, have all the information? Because I feel like information is where the frequency is, right?
So if you want to control people, you have more information than they do.
Okay. Simple.
And it's really, really simple. What you said is true. Even Hippocrates, like we have doctors who don't believe in astrology, but Hippocrates, when they take the Hippocratic oath, Hippocrates was the founder of modern medicine. He said that a doctor that doesn't follow and practice astrology is not a doctor, but a fool. So you're right. Billionaires do use it. The people who run the world, who literally run the world today, use it. You can see it in dates that we choose and things why we do things on certain days. It's but it's like everything else. It's like when they didn't want to answer what a conspiracy theorist was, or they wanted to shut down the JFK discussion. They called anybody who talked a counter narrative a conspiracy theorist, and then that just became just like right now, disinformation. I mean, like I said, I got cited for disinformation. You know the disinformation?
Yeah, every time I post you or tag your company or tag Human Garage or something with you connected, they say, "Oh, this is fake information." I'm like, where's that coming from?
Oh, that's all gone now.
Yeah.
That part was only there for 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
But literally, I got I was posting about silica and the benefits of diatomaceous earth for hydration. And it came back and says, well, there's no evidence behind it. And they quoted a bunch of stuff. And I just go to ChatGPT, all the peer-reviewed articles on silica, health of the body, diatomaceous earth, health in the body. And I got a slew of peer-reviewed science-backed articles. Well, they have a few of them that they say there is no evidence. And I'm like, there is like a mountain of evidence. But, the idea is that things that have, what I found in my time working with the human body is things that have a great impact on your health and give you control are considered to be woo-woo, different. They're considered to be bad. Like, I'll give you the simple one, like alcohol versus heroin.
Mm.
Heroin's so bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, I started my medical career working in rehabs. Alcohol, there's a 50% chance you'll die while you're detoxing.
Wow.
It's the only one of all of the drugs where they have to have a 24-hour supervision while they're detoxing for about 5 days because you could die. But that doesn't happen when you're on heroin. So if one could kill you and the other one doesn't necessarily kill you, then which would be the worst one? So like, for example, we have made alcohol socially acceptable, but alcohol by far is the worst on the human body,
Yeah.
you know, and heroin or opiate and stuff like that was used medicinally for many years, or psilocybin or MDMA or ketamine. These are all things that are now being used in the world of medicine to help people get off the addiction of pharmacology.
Yeah. It makes sense. What is your, I believe that because Dr. Amen talks about that, about alcohol is really bad for you. What's your theory on plant medicine?
So plant medicine, first of all, it's the original medicine.
Got it.
All medicine even when you look at aspirin, it came from white willow bark. It's plant, all medicine came from plants.
Plants, yeah.
Well, plants, or I mean, there's certain things that come from some animals or slugs or spiders and stuff like that. But it's all plant medicine. The medicine that's not plant medicine is not medicine. Pharmacology.
Yeah.
And pharmacology is not medicine.
Interesting. Yeah, because in Peru this past year, they gave us coca leaves. If it was in high altitude and we get headaches, we would chew on the coca leaves. I didn't know that's how they make cocaine. So
cocaine.
You take a bag of coca leaves back to the States. And I was just like, wow, this is like fascinating.
You took it back to the States?
No, you're not supposed to.
No, I say don't do that.
Right. I didn't know that. I'm like, it just leaves. It's like, no.
Don't do that or you'll be where I was.
Right. But it actually helped cure my headache when I was hiking my
Yeah. So listen, the origin of plant medicine, what we have in pharmacology is we take something in nature that works, and then we isolate the working component, and we take it out and we put it. But if we put it back, what we do is we put that working component back in a petroleum base, which the body gets the signaling of the medicine, and then says something's wrong because it doesn't have the grounding of the base, like white willow bark. It works for like a headache, like aspirin. It's aspirin.
Yeah.
It works in 30 seconds to a minute. Aspirin works in 20 to 30 minutes. Aspirin has heart effects, like your stomach bleeds. It causes issues with your liver, your kidneys. So aspirin has a side effect. Well, it's white willow bark isolated and then put it back in petroleum. So, like for example, one of our supplements, Power Kirk 30. It's a blend between pharmacology and natural. We took the active ingredient in curcumin, the thing that makes it anti-inflammatory, called bis-demoxycurcumin. We chemically copied it. And then we put that back into curcumin so the body doesn't have a rejection or a side effect. And that made it, as far as we know, one of the world's strongest anti-inflammatories with an ORAC rating of 500,000, an inflammatory rating of 500,000, compared to 9,500 in curcumin. Now that so like pharmacology itself isn't bad, but the way that it's being used, because to isolate and extract an ingredient out and put it in a tonic is a form of pharmacology. It's to take something active, take it in a concentration and bring it out and use it. It's not bad, but the way that it's being applied is not healthy for humans.
I want to get back to like trauma, right? Because I think a lot of us hold and store trauma in the body. What part of the body is trauma or pain stored? Like, is it like in our chest, our solar plexus? Like, where is it? Because I feel like we hold energy in our body at all times, not knowing.
Well, I think you have to define what trauma is.
Yeah.
Trauma is a stressor against an event, or there's an input, there's a stimulation, there's a stressor because of that stimulation, and there's a narrative about that stressor, like it was bad or it was good, and what it did to me or what it didn't do to me.
Yeah.
Because You can take the same thing that is traumatic for one person, another person goes, oh, that's good. So trauma is very personalized. Trauma is the inability to process. Our bodies naturally flow energy. Like we have an incident, we have a problem, we walk it off, we go in nature, we sit and we talk about it. We normally have this flow to let it go. But when our body's in stress, stress narrows our focus and we don't see options. The end goal of stress is suicide. We don't see an option to have to get out of here. The opposite of that, serotonin, is I see all the options in the world. And those are the two kind of spectrums of the body. I mean, there's other chemicals that involve, like get like dopamine for focus and that. But basically, I see options, I don't see options. One I end my life, one I open my life.
Mm.
And trauma is the body's inability to process, does not see options, inability to process the stressor. Now, there can be physical reasons for that. There can be emotional reasons for that. But trauma does not exist in the brain. That's why working with it in the brain itself doesn't feel any pain. And trauma is painful. So brain has no pain sensors. You can do surgery on your brain.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's zero pain sensors. You can cut open the skull, do surgery in the brain without any anesthesia. It has no pain sensors. So that means even headaches aren't in the brain. They're in something around it. So basically, your body is a computer, has an intelligent part of it, a computer, a brain in that computer called an interstitium.
Yeah.
That interstitium is the brain of your body, and this is a processor that runs programs. And your brain runs programs, and if it doesn't understand the program, it just keeps running it. And that's what we call repetitive thoughts. And when we're in trauma, we keep running the repetitive thought over and over because it doesn't understand the program. Again, we've mysticized and romanticized trauma, but trauma is just the body's in stress and it can't process the pain. Like one of the traumas that I learned about was like sexual abuse as a kid. I didn't learn about it until 2 years ago. I had a feeling somewhere through my life, and then all of a sudden, boom, it came up. And I'm like, why would it come up now? Like I wasn't traumatized by it. I'm like, that's interesting. And my conclusion was it came up because I was finally ready to emotionally process the intensity of that trauma. And so if you take the body out of stress long enough, then we stand outside. When we take the stress narrows our focus, can't see an option. We take the body out of stress long enough, we can start to see options, or we can see other storylines or narratives that might exist around that event. Like, for example, when I was in prison, that was very traumatic. At the time, I told myself it's going to be good, but I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
I just told myself this is going to be good for me. Stepping away from me now, that's most transformative moment of my life.
Yeah.
And because I'm out of the stressor and my body's processed it. Now I can see why it happened in my life. I can make sense of it. This is why this current culture around trauma and I have it stored and all that, basically we're just saying is that we're stressed out in our bodies and we don't know how to get out of stress.
Yeah. And I think honestly, some of us, we choose these stories, and I think most of us are miserable because we choose to be, because we always feel like we got to be moving or doing something, because we don't know how to shut off and do nothing and just receive from the design of intelligence. But you were talking about traumas in the body, is because I guess the brain. So how do you explain concussion, CTE for maybe like boxers or football players?
That's a stressor on the body. That's a stressor and an event and a narrative about it. Now, I propose that when the body, you got a chance to touch me, I think, when we're there,
right?
Really liquid, like soft and flexible. I propose that when the body's functioning right, has the proper minerals and balance and water balance.
Yeah.
I propose that the body recovers itself from these events. I had 8 concussions diagnosed, 3 near-death experiences. So I recovered myself through this process. And what it was for me was, it took me a while to figure out why. And then when I started to remove the trauma, I could step outside of it, I could see it. And then I started trying to deconstruct why I got out of it. And it seems to have been for me that I had got my body hydrated, moved the tissue, and removed the physical restriction of movement in my body.
Yeah, and I think a lot has to do with trust, because, if you know about the body, like the left side of my body, which is the feminine side, my entire life, I injured, dislocated my shoulder, my hip, my wrist, my ankle, right? And it's just always been injured. But I also remember when I had someone working on it, I was afraid, right, to let them like relax.
Well, the reason why is because you carry the emotions of the people around you, being a Pisces,
Right, right,
and
absolutely.
the emotions are on the left side.
Ah, that makes sense. And so, funny thing about that was before I hiked the Inca Trail in Machu Picchu, I mean in Peru, I had my facilitator there do some work on me about past life or maybe when I was a child. So when I was a child, maybe 5 or 6, someone was like throwing me up in the air at the ceiling fan, and but they were like laughing. I think it was an uncle or a cousin, but they disrespected my boundaries, and like I felt uncomfortable. And she was touching me. It's like, is something in your heart? I was like, no, my heart is fine. She came to the back of me and she knew exactly where my shoulder was dislocated at. She's like, what about there? I said, that's what fear is. She said, you've been holding that since you was a kid. But I didn't know it because I have no recognition of my childhood because I feel like I was a man before I was a boy because I was raised, right? But I say all that to say, energy is everything. I've watched you. I think there was an older lady at the event and like she had hip pain. She was on a cane. I mean, you guys did like some spiritual surgery on her. Like,
Yeah,
it
she got
just,
up and walked without her cane, and she left the facility without using her walker.
so when you're moving energy through a person's body, is it more like an intuitive knowingness that you have, like intuition, discernment? Because I watch you in the process, and it's just like you have such a knowing about it. Like you don't believe what you're doing. It's like and then you get people to like relax, trust me. And then they just get healed. Like, where did that come from? And how long did it take for you to get in that space of just putting people in a proper alignment of their soul and their body so they can feel healed? Because I think one of your missions is to inspire people to heal themselves, maybe 1 billion souls to heal themselves through the information and work you provide.
How long did it take? 55 years.
Respectfully.
Yeah. So listen, what I've observed in my journey and watching Jason, Cynthia, Aisha, and the people around us that have been doing this for years
Yeah.
is that when we reduce the stress over a long period of time, increase the hydration, we have
Oh.
more access
Whoa,
to
whoa, whoa. Can you say that again? Oh, say that again. You said when we decrease the stress.
and increase the hydration.
Wow.
Well, see, because look at this. I'm 80% water. That's not
Right.
muscle. It looks like muscle, but it's actually
Right.
what I call fascials. It's fascia muscles.
Yeah.
And when we're functioning right as a human being, we have access to intuition. But what I've
Mm.
noticed or observed is that, okay, let's say 75 to 100 years ago, human beings were 80% water. 30 years ago, we were 30% water, or sorry,
Mm.
70% water. Now, currently today, scientifically, an average human being is 60% water.
Wow.
So, so as we've been dehydrated and demineralized, and water is a primary construct of who we are, when our primary construct is dehydrated, we lose access because we're basically silica, water, and bacteria. We're a crystal. And when that crystal is dehydrated, it doesn't have the same power to radiate or receive.
And
And
yeah, damn.
And if you think about it, think about a crystal on your cell phone. It takes your cell phone signal and amplifies it so it can go miles to a tower. If that crystal is cracked or dirty, then that signal won't go. And our crystal here is definitely cracked, that's dehydrated, and
Yeah.
dirty, that's heavy metals. So we lose access to our signal. So I propose that every human being was like this at one
Mm.
point. And we just don't know because it's only the way that we've experienced the world. And so you said that a knowing, yeah, there's a knowing
Yeah.
because I can feel like for you in particular, I can feel specifically that there's still resentment and anger that you've been holding around that incident that you told me about
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
because somebody disrespected your boundaries at an
Hmm.
early age, which through the course of your life means that lots of times people have disrespected your boundaries
Yes.
around physical aspects.
Yeah,
True?
just energetically. You see, I was a people pleaser for 35 years.
Yeah, but even physically,
You know?
even physically, you played sports. I'm willing to bet you
Yeah.
your boundaries were disrespected physically.
Yeah. Yeah. I played sports and it was always when I played basketball. That's when my shoulder came out.
So I'm going to say that the physical disrespect of your boundaries started that you were aware of was then. And then it happened in all these different ways through your life. You want to go through something to clear it right now?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Take your right hand, take your right on your center bone and go down the right side. So right where the rib cage curves, dig up in there. That's your liver and your gallbladder. So just push up in there and twist. Take your left hand, put it behind you. Close your eyes, connect your hands through your body, and then breathe in through your mouth 3 times with me. Breathe in. 2, 3. Through your nose. 2, 3. Say, thank you, anger, for pushing me forward.
Thank you, anger, for pushing me forward.
I no longer need anger to push me forward.
I no longer need anger to push me forward.
Thank you, resentment.
Thank you,
for helping me remember my past.
For helping me remember my past.
I no longer want to hold resentment in my body.
I no longer want to hold resentment in my body.
I'm letting go of the resentment towards the men in my life.
I'm letting go of the resentment towards the men in my life.
Okay.
Wow.
So feel your left shoulder.
Yeah.
Because the area you're talking about is called gallbladder.
Oh.
Gallbladder goes from the eye all the way down. The shoulder goes down the rib cage all the way down the hip. So that makes your left hip rotate a little bit.
Yeah.
So that you always have to have adjustments in your hip, chiropractically or otherwise. Makes that left quad a little bit bigger, a little bit forward. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I did have a lot of anger and resentment growing up. And I was just so angry, but it wasn't like an outburst angry, it was internal angry. And I used that to drive me.
Yeah.
I want to be great.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. And then, I stored
you crash.
I stored it in my tissues. They can't tell me I can't do this. I'm going to work out. I'm going to show them. Yeah. And I powered all this anger into my workouts. And when I started unraveling the trauma in my body, that's what I was unraveling, all the emotions that I had stored. You store emotions when you release hormones. So you store emotions when you physically work out or when you eat food, as an example, or you take a drug or a substance. Your emotions codify and they lock in your tissue.
Yeah, you talked about that on the interview. Can you explain? You said you were on a 4-week fast. Your mom had transitioned and you guys didn't eat any food. So there was no emotions that came to the surface. But when you went to eat the food, or when we eat food, I don't know what food does to our emotions. I don't know if it amplifies it.
Food fires your hormones.
Got it.
When you're not eating food, you use very little stress hormones for sure. But your hormones are very, very, they're not highly utilized. You don't have to utilize a lot. That's why when you fast, we fasted for 44 days. And it was a really weird experience because, my mom passed away in the 4th week of the fast or 5th week.
Yeah, you were saying 4th week, yeah.
Yeah, and I had my response was more like, oh, I guess we got to take care of that. I knew this was coming, but there was no emotion. And then when I started eating later on, all of a sudden the emotions, the tissue that I'd fed that tissue and the emotions that come out, and then all of a sudden this wave of emotion came out.
Yeah. And what is your relationship with grief? What's the proper way for someone to grieve a loss or a separation or maybe heartbreak? What is your interpretation of grieving and how that helps the body?
Well, what do you feel like grief is? Because we associate it to loss, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I so care about helping people. If they don't receive my help, I used to have the emotion of grief. Grief is like a sadness. Grief is like a sadness that's held with a resentment and a helplessness at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's a version of sadness at some point. When I connect to that intelligence outside of me, I can feel or see the plan. And when I can see the plan, Like if like later on in life, everybody can go 20, 30 years later, go, when that happened 30 years later, now this is good for me. With enough time, things always make sense.
Yeah.
But the goal of it is grief. When I hold grief in my body, it stops me from making sense of it right now.
Mm.
There's a documentary. One of my clients was a Academy Award winning producer, and he did the 37-minute documentary called "The Lady in Number 6." It
Mm.
was the oldest living Holocaust survivor, 112 years old. Her family had got killed, gassed, her sons, her parents, her husband, her friends. But because she was such a beautiful pianist, they kept her alive to entertain them. So here she is years later, and she said something that took me at 112 years old. It took me 10 years to understand the message that she was giving me when I watched it. She said, the Holocaust was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how could you say that? And 10 years later, I got it. It was like, with enough time, I can make sense of why that happened and who I became through it. So grief is not recognizing who I've become through a situation or why that situation, what it was doing for me. Grief is a helplessness saying, I'm a victim of this. This happened to me. But the other way to look at it later on is it happened for me because my father died. I became this person because my brother died who led me. It drove me to do these things.
Yes.
So grief is the one side of it is I feel the sadness, which is okay. But I've associated a narrative of I'm not happy. I don't understand this. I don't agree with this. This is something being done to me.
Yeah.
When I flip the other side, I can still have sadness that my brother passed, but it inspired me to do all these things.
I mean, yeah, it's true because, when I was a kid growing up, the emotional abandonment wound that I experienced drove me to be this giver, nurturing, loving person to everybody because I didn't get it. And then years later, I resent my mom, my dad, like, why didn't you guys? And then honestly, like, they did me a favor. Like, my mother was a real MVP for not making me a mama's boy or kind of giving me everything I thought I should have to spoil me, to make me maybe depend on women. But I was confused for years. And then as I got older and really realized life, I'm like, damn, that made me who I am today. And so, like you said, I appreciate those moments. Just like before transparent, when I came to your event, when you were on stage and you said you was in a cell, but you told the story at the event and you said you wanted to, I think you said you wanted to commit suicide or you just wanted to be done with it. That kind of pulled me in. I'm like, whoa, this is why this guy is here. There it is. Cause I'm always looking for that little thing. I'm like, human garage looks great, but what's the root? Not the branch. We know the branch is great. What's the root of this tree? And I'm like, when you said that, it woke me up. Whoa, tell me more. How did you get through that? 27 months? 17, 18 years later. But if no one knows that story, they can always look at what you're doing that doesn't make sense to their paradigm to kind of ridicule it or hate it. And I believe you're chosen to go first. Oh, it doesn't make sense. But you're going to be the one that everybody eventually listens and follows because this is true medicine from your soul. You're not going into a book or you're going, this is like embodied medicine that you're using and helping people with. And I think what you're teaching people is connect to the multi-dimensional technology of your vessel. That's where all the information and the medicine you need to heal, but we don't even know.
Yeah.
Like you telling me with these words, how important words are for your body. So, I just think where you at and where you're going is so phenomenal. And I'm so thankful that you want to help people in the way you are and you want to make a difference. And you are, I feel like you're an activator. You activate things in people that they might not like, but it wakes them up. It makes them think. And I'm always for the people who shakes up the room and make you think. Because we need those. If we don't have enough of you, it's like everyone's just going to follow the crowd and just be sheeps. Like, no. So, Garry, I just want to say thank you. But I do want to talk about how can we get into the vortex of you? How can your products? You talked briefly about your products. Do you have any courses? I know you're still doing your tour. We want more of you. And by the way, is a book coming out? Can we get a book?
Yeah, I've resisted writing a book. But I think it's been clear that it's going to happen. But there's a documentary coming out on us.
Okay. Got it.
And that's coming out. That documentary will be coming out next year in streaming services, film festivals, and mainstream.
Yeah.
Um, I think the documentary might hit before the book,
Yeah.
but the reality is, it's not about me.
Right. Right.
It's about you.
Hmm.
And we have, when I found my way through the journey of pain and suffering, and I found a way to feel okay in my body and to feel to not feel powerless anymore. When I found those things, a driving mission for me to make it free for people, and I knew that that like I don't believe that the fascia maneuvers is phenomenal. It's like nothing else that I know of on the planet, but I don't believe that I own it, and we don't believe that we own it.
Yeah.
So that's why we made all the intellectual property and all the courses to heal yourself and help yourself all the way through to practitioner, and performance is all free of charge.
Yeah.
And it starts off with first of all taking care of, because some people want to learn this intellectually, and you can,
Hmm.
but the real embodiment of this is the experience of it. And so there's resets that you can do on our website. A 28-day reset is a beginning point, and we take people day by day, and it's only about 30 minutes a day max, but it gives them content, it gives them reflection, it gives them awareness, education, and movement all in the same 30-minute cycle. And it's transformative. It literally transforms people's lives. And then if people choose to go forward from that, there's lifestyle artist level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is like a double down on the education and the healing of your own self. And then level 2 is, how do I want to take that? Do I want to become a coach? Do I want to take it into my business? Do I want to partner with us? Because we have this worldwide movement. We've got, like 4.5 million people now on platforms and education, either platforms, media, or education.
Hmm.
But we also have, roughly around 40 million people around the world that are doing this daily. Like, it's being prescribed by over 1 million practitioners every single day. So it's growing at a rate, like right now we estimate 1.5 million a month, but we can't even give you an accurate number.
Yeah.
So for people to get more of us, the way to get more of us is not to learn about it, but to experience it.
Mm.
Starting off start off right today. If you're listening to this, go to our website, do a 15-minute stress reset. And if that wakes you up, do a lower reset or an upper reset. If that resonates with you, go in and start the 28-day reset. But step by step, piece by piece, the way to experience more of us is to experience more of you. Because
Mm.
when the stress comes down and the emotions start to regulate, you'll start to see a lot of the things that we are showing or teaching. But if you're in stress, you're only going to catch a piece of it.
It's important to know because I think everyone needs tangible items or tools to use. So I do want you to add, what is a 3-step or 3 tools that a person can use to decrease the stress, to increase the hydration within their body if they don't have access to you?
You only need one tool.
Okay.
It's the 15-minute stress reset.
Got
It
it.
removes 75 to 90% of the stress in your body in the first 7 to 10 minutes. We can download our free supplement guide, and it'll tell you how to get the minerals, how to get the silica and the minerals. Because even if you can't afford it, you can get dirt. And you can literally take good quality dirt, take a glass, pour it in a glass, and drink it.
Wow.
Your body just needs minerals and needs movement, and it will restore its natural ability to heal.
Yeah. And I think the body is here to heal, to grow, to evolve, to learn, and to be, a human within the garage of yourself to get to know why you're here. And it's
Yeah.
bigger than just being a purpose of just being present. So is there anything else you want to leave the people? Any words, any motivation?
Stop taking everything so seriously. Take the stress out every day, 1 to 2 times. Do that for 90 days, and everything in your life changes.
Wow.
It's really
That's
simple.
so don't take life too serious. Take the stress out of your life, do it for 90 days, and your life will change.
The only reason why we take life serious is because we're stressed out.
That's a beautiful quote. Put it on the website.
And if you look at the difference between kids and adults, the
Good.
difference is the adults take life serious.
Yeah. So
Kids
good.
don't. And the thing that separates them is their perception of what that life is so stressed.
and we create those paradigms in our mind and the story that we live by. Damn, that's so good. People only damn, that's so good. Garry, thank you. This was phenomenal. People, follow Human Garage on Instagram. Go to the website. I'm going to put everything in the show notes. Subscribe to the podcast, Spiritual Fitness. And let's connect. Garry was a phenomenal guest, and his information is incredible. So it is. Thank you. We're done.